Right. Welcome to the July 13th edition of Idea Share. We took a week off last week and we are back. So my name is Beth Golick. I'm with Key Ministry, and Catherine Boyle, actually she's over here for me, is our Director of Mental Health Ministry. And we're looking forward to hearing what you all have to say this week. So for those of you who have been on before, or maybe you're new, tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods these days, just to get us started. Would anybody like to open us up and tell us what's new at your church?
I'll start.
Okay, thanks, Sylvia.
Nothing's new, but
well, there we go. All right, so Sylvia's in Maryland, so not a whole lot's opening up in Maryland at this point, I think.
We're real slow. Numbers are really going down, but there are still areas that are still having some problems. And because our church is so large, pastor is deciding that we will not open probably until January.
Wow.
So everything that we are doing is virtual now. I actually started my special needs Sunday school class 2 weeks ago. And that's coming with some challenges because we have such a diverse population. Mm-hmm. One young man in the group is deaf, in the midst of others who have varying levels of intellectual abilities. So it's just been a real challenge. We are going to meet with our media specialists to kind of help get us connected, and partnering with our deaf ministry to see what we're going to do. But we ain't doing nothing different.
Wow. Does the individual do like lip reading or sign language? Can the person read?
Unfortunately, he's also intellectually challenged. So he does sign. And it's an interesting thing because he's 16 now, and I've known him since he was 6 months old.
Oh, wow. Because
I used to work with him in the school system in their infants and toddlers program. So we have a relationship with each other and his mom. So it's been interesting, but and his twin brother functions a lot higher, although the twin has cerebral palsy and the other one is deaf.
Okay. Wow. So you've got some interesting challenges there.
Yeah.
For sure. And for those of you who haven't met Sylvia before, I think when we met you on here like a month or whatever, 2 ago, whatever, she's got quite the impressive resume, let me tell you. She is working on a lot right now. So yeah, so go ahead and add that other thing to, now you're doing the class online too. Sure, why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, well, keep us posted. Does anybody have any experience working with like hearing impaired on Zoom? Somebody who's hearing impaired on Zoom? That definitely ups the difficulty factor a little bit. Yeah, Julie.
Our daughter has a pretty significant hearing loss, and she only has hearing in one ear, and she has she's aided in that ear, but the majority of what she receives comes through lip reading. So, and this is challenging because people don't always, open their mouths when they talk, especially on Zoom.
And with masks.
And with a mask, right?
It's a crazy world for a person with a hearing loss at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, technically I don't have a hearing loss, but boy, do I use, it's hard for me to hear somebody with a mask on, I have to say.
Yeah.
I think I focus on people's lips, so.
I will say on Zoom, you can set it up to have closed caption. That is one of the features that you can do. But if he's not able to read, that's not really going to be able to help much there. But that is an option that you can do. It's free on there. You have to go in and set it up ahead of time, though. I don't think you can set it up during the meet. I think it's something you actually have to set up before the meeting, if I remember right. I haven't fully played with it. I just tested it a little bit, but it is there, and it does delay a little bit, but it seems to be fairly good for it.
Okay, that's good to know. And Kathy is also saying in the chat that you can close caption Zoom, which again may or may not work for this particular individual. All right, would anybody else like to share what's going on? I can tell you what's going on in my church. So we, I think a lot of you know, we had our first outdoor service 3 Sundays ago, and it was pretty great. And then we had a staff member test positive, and the staff, they were not at the service. They hadn't actually been in the building for a while, you know, but out of an abundance of caution, we went back to online everything for 2 weeks. So like we're working from home this week and last week, and our session is meeting tonight, and we'll make a determination about whether we're doing the in-person outdoor service on Sunday or if we'll be doing strictly online. So
how's your staff person doing? Do you know?
Fine, like has been home the whole time. So yeah.
This is Diana, Community Bible Church in San Antonio. We did 4 drive-in services, even though many months ago they said they would never do that. They planned to reopen this past weekend, and in lieu of not being able to open, they did do a drive-in. They had 1,200 cars. I don't know how many people. I did not attend. I saw pictures and I did online, but I keep up with virtually with Zoom on my class on Sunday morning, and it would have been really hard to get there, get home, and get back. And I opted to not do that. Also, out of just protection, I never went back when the office is open for the 2-week time period. So they're back shut down with not even thinking about offices. The earliest opening up again would be August 18th. They're not going to do the drive-in again. It was 105 degrees. So formed in the worship bands. I mean, they were wearing tank tops and shorts. They were sweating. The pictures I saw, I just looked at about, I don't know, they posted for staff, I think probably about 100 pictures, and lots of not social distancing, lots of not wearing masks. And I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm just kind of waiting to see what the outcome of this is. I only know of 2 special needs families that opted to go. One is a special needs adult who does have a driving license, and he went and stayed in his Jeep the entire time and didn't expose himself, which was very smart. He's in his 50s. And then another family that went with their 18-year-old son, who also stayed in the car and did not get out and talk to anyone. So those are the only reports I got from the special needs aspect, other than the fact that I had 18 people, I think, on my Zoom at 11. So that's the biggest number. So we're growing virtually.
That's wonderful about your Zoom. 18, that's really impressive. So for your drive-in, they got out of their cars though. That's kind of.
Oh, it was, I mean, from even watching the online, I mean, people were getting out of their cars. They were going up to the stage with the worship band. Like I said, I was seeing, you know, not masks, and I just, a lot of it is just, yeah, it's just kind of the culture of our church right now. We've had this senior pastor now for, I think, 4 years. And he preached from one of those like elevated cranes with microphones. And then it was broadcast into all the cars to play on their radio station.
Okay.
But they're not going to do it every week. This was a one-time deal. It's my understanding, but you know, everything changes. So.
Right. I was going to say, but we've all learned that things we said we'd never do, we're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
We had a couple things. So this weekend we're having our first weekend back to in-person services, though that there is some talk about moving it back outside. And and they're going to make that decision midday tomorrow. But we did have, we called Songs and Stories. It was like a concert type thing outside, and they had food trucks come. And it was pretty well attended. We did have some rain, so that kind of put a damper on things. But some people could choose to stay in their cars, and they had it broadcast over the radio.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I would love to jump in here. I'm
Sure.
from here in northern New Jersey, and we have been closed and just doing a whole lot of things online for many, many months. And we're about to start to do some gatherings outside. And although you can communicate really effectively in many ways about distancing ahead of time, during, with maybe line markations and things like this, and about the using masks, I wonder, from those of you who have had gatherings of any sort, whether small or large, and you helped answer that partly, the person who just spoke, I wonder how able people are to keep these guidelines in place when there's so much eagerness to gather. That's why people, we're having really successful online gatherings, but people are dying to be with each other. And I suspect it's because they're dying for hugs and touching and closeness. And so how is that going for y'all who have opened some things? Thanks.
I can tell you from ours, when we did have the outdoor service, I didn't see any physical, like hugging, that kind of thing. Staff were required to wear masks, and a lot of other people were wearing masks. And we did have the squares like spray painted on the grass, and they were big. They were 12 by 12 squares. And people did a good job of maintaining, like, as you had to walk around the building to get to the courtyard, and they maintained distance, 6 feet distance. And kids, stayed with their families. I mean, I think people did a good job, but I could see how easily people could slip into, what they're used to doing, which is congregating. So that was our experience. And again, we only had the 1 week. So anybody else?
Especially lively kids, I was curious about.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And none of the families with special needs were there. I mean, none chose to be there. It's a difficult situation for a lot of families to stay in your little square. So, Trace.
I just had a funny story. We had a picnic in the park, and everybody brought their own picnic, and everybody did really, really good with social distancing and staying in their spaces and talking and giving air hugs. And we get to almost the end, and somebody said, "Oh no, we forgot to take any pictures. We need, pictures for our communications director." And without even thinking, those of us that were standing next to each other just huddled all up and took a picture.
Okay.
What did we do? It's just so easy to fall right back into just,
For sure.
Yeah, Good.
We did have a citywide prayer service that was a bunch of different churches together. We came together to pray, and everybody was pretty good. Just about everybody had a mask on, and we marched through the city, and then we worshiped on both ends of it at the beginning and at the end together. And I think that turned out pretty well. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've got one of our campuses meets in a school, and since all the schools are shut down, they've been meeting at a park for, maybe the last 7 weeks or so now. And they've been doing a fairly good job from what I've seen pictures wise and everything with social distancing. Everyone brings out their own chairs, tents like they're tailgating to set up for the heat, since, it is hot and everything, and have done fairly well with that. They are trying to do some children's ministry with that as well. And they do have a couple of families with special needs who have been attending that. So they are doing some things there. It is tricky with that. Again, whenever you're dealing with kids, it's tough to do any physical distancing there. So that's just a challenge. But for the most part, they've been doing fairly well. The families are staying far enough apart. For us, what I'd say, unfortunately for me, I have to share some sad news. We've officially been touched pretty drastically with COVID. This past week, we learned that one of our participants has passed away, as one of our adult volunteers passed away from COVID. She passed away a few weeks ago, but I just learned of it this week. So COVID has really hit hard at home now with us, and that we've lost a participant and a volunteer. So it's all of a sudden, not that it wasn't real before, but it's extremely real right now, having that here in our backyard, and just makes it even more real for the families with that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'd say, here in Northern California, I see Christy is on here too. She's not far from me. The virus, the fear, as people are interacting with, they know of people who have tested positive, even if they're, asymptomatic or whatever. The fear has definitely increased substantially here. There's a church in our town. I think it's the only one that's had any sort of formalized Sunday gathering. I think they probably have like 350, 400 people at church. They had a service on yesterday. I think there's about 25 people that came. So people are really, everyone's wearing a mask. Like, I think the only people in our town that are not wearing masks are, kids under the age of 2. And there's like little kids that you see wearing masks. People are definitely clamping down in so many ways. And so, the fear is very real, I think, as it gets closer. We do have a lot, in our county particularly, we do have a lot of cases that are non-fatal or like asymptomatic, a lot of the college population, but people see that the numbers are going up. And so I would say the culture here has changed dramatically and drastically in the last 2.5 weeks. And so, we've been doing for kids, other than Zoom, we've been doing that like Otter Pop, like a popsicle meetup thing on Tuesdays for an hour. And people are really happy to come. Every single person, like I said, except for kids under 2, are wearing a mask. And, the kids, we have a huge like grass field, and, sometimes they take off and run, and they start running together, and then all of a sudden they're trying to play tag. And so, it is just so hard in so many ways. But we're kind of going into school starting up at the end of August and fall planning for ministry. And we're already like reinventing our fall plans, because when we made them at the end of June, it felt like, oh, things are getting a lot better. And now, like, I think, aside from the initial shutdown and everything, I think the fear is like probably the highest it's been here, like the general angst and fear. So, ministry wise, it's interesting to continually reinventing something like that you never even put it in place, and you reinvent it again because like, oh no, that's not going to work anymore. And so I don't know, that's just our part, our slice of the country. But, considering what Doc just said, it seems like, we're not alone in that.
Yeah. I know in Ohio, several counties have mask orders now, including the county I live in and the county where my church is in. And that's kind of new for Ohio. It was recommended before, but now it's official. So one of the things that we're discovering, well, not discovering, but it's obvious, people are kind of sick of Zooms. And I know like the student ministry at our church last night, they had been able to go back in person outside, social distanced, but now they have to go back to Zoom. And I heard a staff member tell me 3 people showed up, and they had like dozens of people before. So, how are we feeling about this? Are there any fresh ideas? Are you all continuing to do Zooms? I know mine are getting a little lower in attendance. Part of that has to do with, we do have some camps, either in person and or virtual, that are happening this week for some of my students. But how are you all feeling about, I mean, I know we're all sick of Zoom, but how are you handling that for your ministry?
We've tried, we have a kids Zoom every other Sunday, so it's not every week, which I think is helpful. The kids can look forward to that. We also have a 5th and 6th grade one every other week. They kind of have a separate ministry. So the every other has been helpful because it seems like kids look forward to it more. Hi. Hi. And then,
Want a hug?
And anyway, I'll keep going. And on our kids Zooms, we've tried to have a new volunteer attend every week via Zoom, and we interview them. So it's like we kind of have the same set of questions, but we interview them. And so it's like, hey, so-and-so volunteers coming this week. So we try to have something kind of new and exciting. And so kids have enjoyed that. The 5th and 6th grade one, we've been playing that game Kahoot. Like they could play. That's been like a big ministry thing for us here, is Kahoot. So we try to have something sort of new, but in the same structure. This is my son, Noah. He's going to 4th grade. So yeah, we've tried that. But yeah, the every other seems kind of nice. Kids look forward to that.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else?
I have a question whenever.
Yeah, go ahead.
On. Well, so I know that school starts different times around the country. And my kids are in college now, so I don't have a good sense of like what people are doing for school this fall. I'm seeing a ton of, people on both sides of the open, don't open argument online. So my guess is that there's going to be a fair number of people who are choosing to homeschool. So does that change, or is that factored into what you all are doing with your ministry plans for fall? I'm just really curious about that.
Does anybody want to tackle this one?
I'll answer. This is Christy. I don't know if my name shows up or not because I'm on just the call, not the video. We are following what the districts are doing in our area, and that is very calming to the parents. So they know that we're not going out and kind of being a forerunner, but we are following and mirroring what they're doing so that they can rest assured we're following those guidelines. And I guess I'll go ahead and volunteer. For my Zoom classes, I do have them weekly, and I have found that if I have a structure where we do some, time for them to chat and then do a little bit of exercises that are proprioception, so it's fresher on their joints, they seem to focus so much better. And I've had some who normally drop out after 15 minutes and 10 the entire hour. So that's been really good. And then giving a few other ideas that are really, really simple for crafts has been helpful. And I'll show them a video, how to make them, and then actually show how I did it. And then I just go into the Bible lesson. And they've been much more attentive with the exercising.
Okay. Great, thank you. Boy, if Tony was on here, he would give you a thumbs up, I think, for adding in the exercise. That's great. Thank you, Christy. So Diana says she likes the exercise idea, and she limits her Zooms now to 45 minutes. Yeah, and mine are a lot shorter than that. I mean, my ones with my students. Sorry, you all are stuck with me for 45 minutes to an hour. Let's see, one of the ideas that somebody mentioned quite a while back, and that was painting an obstacle course in your parking lot. Does anybody want to claim that one? Yes, all right, thank you, Allison. We're going to ask permission to do it. We do have a
Okay.
little parking lot area that's kind of, it's usually roped off, so it's not part of our main parking lot area. And we think that would be a fun thing to do for the next few months. So can you tell us a little bit about yours so I can write it down?
I can. That was perfect timing because we just got it all up and ready and it's been open this weekend.
Oh,
so
good.
we ended up going, we kind of kept going round and round in circles depending on who I talked to. I got permission to paint the sidewalks and I was all set to paint the sidewalks. Then I talked to our facilities manager and he was like, okay, how are we going to maintain these? Because where they would have quite a lot of traffic flow through there. I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. So we ended up creating big wooden signs that have adjustable backs with tubing that we can put in the grass. And then it sort of follows the sidewalk, which actually meant that it was over probably about 50 foot long. Mm-hmm. And we ended up going with our theme that is our overall theme for the summer, which is Fruit of the Spirit. So each sign was a fruit of the spirit with an action linked to love, joy, peace, etc., etc. So I can share some photos with you that you can post of the boards that we created. And
okay.
I got a lot of positive feedback of people wanting to come and try it out, and the idea being that, like with your area, that it will be, you can social distance, you don't need to worry about masks, you can go anytime. So yeah, they're going to be out there 24/7, and we're just going to duplicate them and put them at our other campus as well. Nice. Just one other sideline was somebody else gave me the idea of another part of the parking lot. We could do games, paint games on the actual parking lot, like hopscotch, twister. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like there's two types of areas to go and play in, but I haven't quite got to that one yet. So if anybody's got any good ideas for that, do share.
I can send you pictures. So we've done a little bit of research on what we want to paint as far as like an obstacle course goes, and includes like hopscotch and spinning and that kind of thing. So I can share those with you. But our Bible Path Challenge, our Bible Path Challenge has been up now for almost 3 weeks. And so this is an outdoor, like a 9-station kind of thing. And I mean, people are using it. So everything is, social distance, and it's, it's on your own. It's not staffed or anything. The only thing where they have to touch anything is we do the last station. There's a, if they want to do a take and make craft, so they don't do anything there, but they're in a Rubbermaid tote in baggies, and then we have hand sanitizer taped to the outside of the bin. So if they want to take one, they can. And but it's kind of fun. So baypres.org. I don't think there's any pictures up though. There's probably on our social media. There's some pictures in our children's ministry at Bay Pres. Yeah, thanks. On Facebook. So that's kind of fun. It's getting harder to come up with activities to keep families engaged without being in person, that's for sure. We were ready to launch a little preschool, toddler, outdoor Bible time with, like some songs and a story with our preschool and the director of our preschool ministry and the person in charge of babies and toddlers. But we postponed it for a couple weeks since the church wasn't going to be meeting in person. So, let's see. Yes, Al. Welcome.
Yes, sorry I was late. I couldn't find the link. Yeah, we had an announcement online by our pastor last week, and the church did a survey. 2,000 people responded online, and over 60% of the people didn't feel ready to meet up yet. So at least through July and way longer probably, we're not meeting up. Also, a lot of the volunteers were not ready to volunteer yet, so that's another big deal in terms of meeting up. And more than 60% of the families were not ready to meet up. So there was a lot of data that went into those decisions. However, all 6 campuses are creating their own events on site somehow. And so we'll see how that plays out. But they are trying to somehow do something. Although the governor of New Jersey just tightened up on some stuff. So I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. But we also had I'm sorry?
Go ahead, and then I'll ask the question.
Okay. And then finally, the special needs buddies started doing visits to homes last week. We were the first visit. We had 2 of my son's buddies, and it was quite a helpful time, encouraging for all of us. So we had 2 of them in masks, trying to keep their distance as you can with an 8-year-old with autism. But it was a very encouraging time having the buddies in our home.
How did JP do with it?
He loved it.
Yeah.
At first he was kind of slow, but then he got going with them. So he likes having people around, so he was happy to have them.
And you stayed out in your yard or your driveway?
Yeah, he was in our backyard. Okay. So we kept our distance so that he just have some alone time with them. But yeah, it was nice just having them come over. And I think other families are getting visits as well. But we happen to be the first ones, so that was pretty cool.
That's neat. Yeah, I have a meeting today to talk about doing that, but with the church being reclosed, we're just not doing anything in person, even if it was outside. So we'll see how that goes. So as Catherine mentioned, Al is from Liquid Church in New Jersey, and my question, Al, was what kinds of in-person, can you give us an example of an in-person event that one of the campuses is working on?
I'm not aware of any that have happened, nor any particular details. We're part of the biggest campus. There's over 2,000 on a Sunday, so I don't know how they would do that. It was only 100 people, so I don't know if that's gone down, but I'm not sure how they would do that. It would depend on what kind of facility they have and if there's outdoor space and all that. So we'll see.
Yeah, okay. Well, keep us posted on that. And Diana did mention in the chat that they've had to cancel their plans as well. She's in southern Texas, and it is just too hot. So that's definitely something that many of you are dealing with is normally at this time of year, you just can't do outdoor activities.
Yeah, we are hoping to do some kind of, individual family respite on our site. And so we had worked for most of June to plan for that. And then like everything went crazy again. So we've postponed that to the fall, I think. So on the plus side, I've already done my fall planning, I guess. But we had hoped to do that. We had debated whether, is it better to have the kids meet at a park or in their house or at the church. And we decided that the church was the safest in terms of our facility and just, everything, oversight and everything else. But I guess that'll be a fall thing. So Al, I'm glad to hear that something happened for you guys now. That's awesome. Yeah, New Jersey and California, I don't think are that far apart in terms of, how people feel in a lot of ways. And so it's really nice to hear that you guys got to do that.
Yeah. Meekins, are you still doing the little small respite?
We're trying to unmute here. So yes, they are opening the snoozling room or the sensory room every day, 3 days a week at 10:30, 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. That gives time in between, and the families can stay just for family units, and the families can stay for an hour and a half. And they can leave anytime they want to, but they're allowed to stay for an hour and a half. So we're doing that, and I usually schedule that each week, reaching out to the families and getting them in, and they're so happy, especially when it's raining around here. They're really happy to be able to take their kids there. Virginia, though, is more open than anybody that's been talking today. So they are having more opportunities to be out. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I'm a little hazy about that, but the young families are just eager to be out and be together. We had 3 events this month with our special needs parent support group where they just got together themselves. So one event was just a gathering of whole families that wanted to come at someone's house excuse me, they had a little bit of a dinner together and then they swam in the pool. Then another one was just special needs parents, and they got together at somebody else's home and they had a little bit of a time together. And then another thing was, this was really cool. One of our little boys has to be in a residential home for a time. And so several of the families got together with their kids to make cards for this young man so that mom could take them off to the place and give them to him. So those 3 events were very successful. I'm not sure how much social distancing happened at these things, but they were private homes and, you know, they all had to make their own decisions. And so that was easier because it wasn't a church decision about how they acted. You know what I'm saying? So if you can get private homes and everybody's agreeable, and if they're not, then they can just go home, you know, in a loving, kind way. So that is something. And then Tom participated in something
Well,
too.
There was what's it called? A pancake breakfast. My son invited me to his church, and it was a small gathering and social distancing, and it was very, very nice outdoors. 3 to a table. And so, yeah, so that's something that was pretty creative. And we're finding even at our church in Virginia, lots of families are doing things together and encouraging family units. Vacation Bible School is starting up this Wednesday. It's going to be every Wednesday for the next 4 weeks. And the registration is by family units. And in the sanctuary, we're able to gather in Virginia. I think it's at phase 3 now, up to 250 people, but with social distancing. And so that's how a Vacation Bible School is going to be done this
And that's
year.
the only room that they're going to be using. Now the we call it Main Street, but the main hallway, Thomas Road, as you well, was a big church. So they have put up, it's a camping theme because they're going on a road trip. Families are going on a road trip. And so they have tents and, you know, all kinds of things that for visual stimulation as they're entering the sanctuary, they get to see that. Nothing like what we usually pull off because the whole building is decorated, as you guys do too probably, but it's something and everybody's pretty excited about it.
Wow. Okay, well it's fun to hear that there's something going on in person, even if many of the rest of us aren't quite there yet. That's great. I'm curious, who brought up earlier about you're going back at a certain time, but you're kind of wondering if you'll have the volunteers for it. Somebody brought that up. Has anybody talked to all of their volunteers to figure out what they're thinking at this point?
I have.
Was it Autumn? Okay.
Yeah. I have about 4 that are ready to come back, but then the question was, were they ready to come back when Vineyard Kids starts again, which would be like when school starts again. So I had 4 that were ready to do that. So this new plan is that we would have a family friendly service in our big room, which would be squares with 3 chairs in them, you know, each one socially distanced. And I'm having trouble getting volunteers to help with that service. Like me and one of my coworkers is tasked with sanitizing, you know, spraying everything down in between services, and we're having trouble getting anybody on board with that. So,
and Bronwyn mentioned in the chat that that most volunteers aren't ready to come back, which I guess is fine at the moment because California is not ready to go back. That her younger volunteers, the teens, they're like, yeah, I'm ready, but their parents are saying, no, you're not ready yet.
I'll also say there have been 2 churches in particular I've just consulted with in the last week, and they're going back, and they're seeing, you know, kind of the exact opposite of what we had been expecting. 60% of their families with disabilities are saying they're ready to come back, but they've got 10% of their volunteers ready to come back. So they're actually having to tell their families they can't come because they don't have the volunteers. with it. And so that a lot of the churches I'm talking to right now, that's what I'm seeing. It's now going to the families are getting tired of being cooped in, and they want to come out, and they're just saying, forget this, we're going to take the risk. And you know, they know now that there are such good studies out there showing that if you wear masks, you're pretty safe. So they're feeling if their kid can keep a mask on, they're willing to go. But volunteers just aren't willing to do that, especially since they know they can't physically distance there. So I'm seeing a lot of churches having a big problem getting the volunteers on board.
Yeah, Diana's one of them. She's saying in the chat that only one of her 24 volunteers are ready to come back. So, and most of the families are not ready. Julie.
One of the things that our director, I just talked with her yesterday, and they had just opened up for Sunday morning, they opened up the room for the first time yesterday. Okay. And what she did was she checked with volunteers and asked first, are you willing to come, as we all would do? Are you willing to come if a family wants to come? And then she only personally invited the families that could work with the people that were available to come. And I think only one little boy came. So, but his parents were very happy to sit in the service because they couldn't sit with him. He's not one of the children that could sit in the service. So they were grateful for that, but she's not putting out any kind of an announcement. She's just individually inviting those families that the volunteers already are used to working with, and seeing how that's going to work as things open up a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of like a reservation system based on the specific volunteers that you know you have.
Yeah, it's a personal invitation. She's not even telling the church at large that it's available. So, yeah.
Kathy is sharing that they use a lot of Wheaton College students for volunteers, and and they're not able to serve off campus their first semester. Okay, so that does limit you. Yeah, and I don't know about Wheaton, but you know, I have 2 kids in college, and it's still a little unclear to me exactly what's happening for the fall. So, and that's, you know, 2 different colleges, both in Ohio. So, all right, for the Doc, I don't know if you can share this or not, but for the churches that you've talked to where they really are having a hard time with volunteers, do you know if they've been including volunteers this whole time?
Yeah, so they've been trying to. One church in particular, they've had the volunteers pretty active on the Zoom calls and have been pretty successful with that. So they've definitely been engaged, but they just don't feel comfortable doing any of the in-person. So it's not that they're not comfortable with being part of the ministry. It's just the whole COVID and the social distancing, physical distancing right now. But they're still involved. The one of the other churches, they really haven't done much there, and so they're seeing some of that's part of it is that a lot of the volunteers just kind of have lost vision, and that's one of the things too. I think as I'm and what I'd encourage everyone, as I've been talking with a lot of churches, if you haven't been reaching out, touching volunteers, keep vision casting, letting them know why you're doing what you're doing. They're going to forget why they're doing it and just find something else or just lose that interest. So it's really important in times like this that you're just going to continue to vision cast. And it may just be even you making a little video, just sharing why, hey, remember why we're doing what we're doing, and saying that out to everyone. Not just making the calls, but just reminding them with everything. And if you do a video, again, I try to keep it under a minute if possible, 2 minutes at the max, so that they will actually watch it. But anything you can do to help keep that vision out in front of them so they know why they're doing it will be helpful. And if you can include them in anything that you're doing, that's going to be a big thing to get them going. The one thing that I am seeing pretty much across the board is a lot of the older volunteers are just saying, I'm done. I'm not going to come back at all, because they've got too much concern with getting getting sick, and they're saying, we'll help out with admin work or something else. They appreciate the ministry, but they just can't take the risk, and so they don't want to come back. And so that's one thing I've seen pretty consistent across the country, and so I'd say 55, 60, throwing myself in the older group now. Yeah, I just threw myself under the bus too, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, but a lot there are saying they just aren't feeling comfortable with that. So, and then it's just like everyone else was saying, the teens are all ready to do it, but it's the parents saying, well, hold on, we're not ready to have you do it.
Right. Thank you for reminding us about the vision casting. I think that's really important. Have any of you done any of that type of thing lately? I mean, I know we talked about it a long time ago, but Bronwyn, have you done that lately?
Yeah, we try to do it in terms of disability ministry, like probably every 6 weeks we've done it. It's been almost monthly. And for kids ministry as a whole, so that's like nursery through about 6th grade. We've done it since March. We've done it 3 times, I think. Part of that is because we've had to reinvent ourselves that many times and communicate. And one of them was we got a bunch of ideas, like in, I don't know, it was May when things were going pretty well here. A ton of really cool social distancing, neighborhood gathering ideas. And then now we can't do any of that, so we had to reinvent it again. So we have been doing that, and engagement has been pretty solid. There are a core group of volunteers who have been pretty vocal through the whole time, saying they want to help. We do have a lot of families that volunteer together. So the parents maybe will teach a Sunday school class, and the teens are maybe buddies and things like that. So a lot of those guys have wanted to do it as a family. So that's been nice. A couple people have fallen off because they don't have the capacity, or they're just like, I'm too overwhelmed with my own family. But yeah, we've done a lot of vision casting, but again, a lot of it's because we had to keep reinventing what we're doing.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else want to share on that topic? All right. I think it's a good reminder for us all. Maybe put that on your to-do list this week to think about how you're communicating with your volunteers and doing that vision casting to keep them engaged. Christy has shared in the chat that Wheaton Bible Church, west of Chicago, they've had several older key volunteers over the past couple of months let her know they're transitioning out of volunteering, which very much goes with what Doc mentioned a few minutes ago. They will not be meeting for kids or special needs until September at the earliest, and she's really praying for more volunteers. So that's, I think a lot of us kind of fall into that boat as far as timing goes, and prayer for sure. And Julie said that they've had good response from volunteers joining in their online VBS to lead small groups. So that's great. And that, VBS is a limited time period. So you're asking people to commit to a, specific thing. And sometimes people are willing to do that. And then hopefully you can transition them back into the regular service. Let's see. So Ingrid asks, how are you planning to continue online during live gatherings? Will there be a Zoom volunteer in the room? This is such a good question, Ingrid. Thank you. Because I think one thing that hopefully we have all learned is that we need to continue to offer things online even when we're back in person. So has anybody thought through what this might look like for your particular ministry? I know Bronwyn has mentioned, I think you mentioned that you're adding to your core of people an online coordinator.
Yes,
right?
essentially, yeah. It seems like there's gonna be 2 tracks whenever we get to that. So the people who come in person and the people who stay online. I mean, there are people who are staying online. They've committed already through the end of next school year to do as much of life online as possible. I don't know when we're all getting back, so maybe that's what we're all doing in our town. But yeah, it just seems like that's going to be the we're doing for the near future.
And I think a lot of school districts are actually working through this right now as well. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Yes, Sylvia.
We're in the process of hiring an online pastor, actually, so that we will stay in the, now where special needs fits in there is a whole nother story, because I will have to navigate that piece of it. But as a church, as a whole, we are in the process of setting up guidelines, doing interviews and all that for an online pastor. We will continue to do a lot of stuff online.
Okay, good. All right, looks like we're kind of reaching our time limit here. I wanted to let everybody know that, just a reminder that this Wednesday is the third Wednesday of the month, which means it's time for a Disability Ministry Video Roundtable. And the topic we're going to talk about is something that's come up. We get contacted, Key Ministry gets contacted about this a lot. Using intake forms, like what could an intake form do for your ministry? And then this idea of like an individualized spiritual plan that you could use in your special needs ministry or in your entire children's ministry. So we're just going to brainstorm those two ideas. And so that's this Wednesday at noon Eastern time. And you can get the link by going to keyministry.org/events to register, and we'll send you that link. Catherine, do we have any other upcoming things scheduled?
Yeah. Yes. So on July 22nd, which is not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, we'll talk with Shannon Royce, who's the director of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Center for Faith and Opportunity Initiatives. That's kind of a mouthful, but basically what their office does is creates and finds and facilitates partnerships to help faith communities with mental health kinds of needs. Key Ministry's been part of a working group that they've had in place for probably 2 to 3 years now. But anyway, one of the things that has come out of this group is this document that HHS just recently published called Compassion in Action. And it's a guide for faith communities on how to help individuals and families who have mental illness. So again, you can go to the keyministry.org/events page to register for that. But it's really an excellent document. We've already linked to where you can find it online. But I encourage you, to either join us in the webinar or, definitely watch the video after it's over, because it can develop mental health ministry in your own church.
And Autumn asked if these will be recorded. Yes, we do record all of our roundtables and webinars. So there's actually a page on the Key Ministry website that is devoted to these monthly disability ministry video roundtables. So we'll put the recording there. Or if you follow us on YouTube or Vimeo, we put it everywhere. So, and now we recently have created a page that you can get to through, if you click on mental health ministry on the keyministry.org website, we have a page devoted to webinars that are mental health related. So, and if you ever have trouble, just reach out to Catherine or me if you ever have trouble finding, any of these. And it's very possible. I think there's one or two I haven't posted yet, so I better get on that.
Yeah, I just put the link for the mental health webinars.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I put last week's on there yet.
I think I did.
You did? Okay. Thanks.
You're good.
Okay. I was on vacation last week. Okay. All right. So I think, gosh, does anybody remember if this coming Monday is going to be another one a week from?
Yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. So hopefully we will see you all Wednesday on the ministry roundtable, and then next Monday for an idea share. I'll let you know if we're having an in-person service this Sunday. And I know there's other things we'll need to catch up on So thanks again for joining in today, and we will see you all soon.